My name is Evie Litwak. For the record, please give me your name.
Minnie, and I'll spell my last name. Rottenstreh.
And where were you born?
Tluste, Tluste. That's a little town in Poland.
What year were you born?
1928.
And your full birthday?
March 21, 1928.
And who were who were your original family that you lived with?
My mother, my father, and I had a younger brother.
And at the time you were liberated, of your original family, who survived?
My mother and my brother.
Were you with them at liberation, or
Yes.
where were you liberated from?
We were liberated a little town named also. In Tluste was a concentration camp. But no, we didn't. Yeah, so we were liberated in that town. But the Germans came. The Germans came back.
You were liberated by who and what date?
We were liberated by the communists, by the Russians. March 23rd, 1944. And some of the people ran out from the camp to greet the Russians. And then the Germans came back, and quite a few people were killed. My cousin was also killed. And then they told us we have to get out of Tluste to go to another town named Borsov, not too far because the front was very close. So we went there. We lived, I think, three families, one room with a kitchen. You know what kolkhoz is? Kolkhoz.
No.
That's in Russia. The places where they live together, they work. So there were a few. We used to call it, we lived the kolkhoz. And then, what was it? In 1946, I think.
No, well, you're in 1944.
Yeah, that was 1944, liberated.
And then what happened in 45?
In 45, we were already living in a different town, not in Tluste, Borsov. And from there, I think it was the Haganah, that, the Haganah?
Yes.
That took us on the way to America. But we walked to America, believe me. We went to Austria, we went to Czechoslovakia, we lived, few families in one room or so. And then, how do you say Wiedeniu? From there, we went to a little town that was already the American zone in Germany.
Now, let me just ask you.
Yeah.
In Austria,
Yeah.
do you remember where you might have slept or stayed?
I think the place was called, I don't know if this is Austria, I think it's Austria, Linz, Lintz.
Okay.
For a short time.
It was a transit camp.
Yes. And then we went, as I told you, to this DP. We're supposed to go to the DP camp and the American zone in Germany. But we lived about 4 or 5 weeks in tents. And it was cold. It was before Rosh Hashanah. So in one tent was my mother, my brother, myself. I wasn't married yet then. And another family. I don't know, maybe Ulka Sama told you to interview them also. Tepper? No?
Not yet.
So they were in the same room with us, a room in the tent. and my brother was a young boy. She had a little baby, and my brother was a young boy. He came on and he was singing. So the grandma said, "You, I'll kill you. The baby is sleeping. You're waking him up." We got a ration, a little soup and bread, and then we went to the place called Wetzlar. Over there, the places where soldiers live. What do you call the big buildings?
The barracks.
The barracks. So there was one gigantic room. They parted it for three rooms, and we were in one part with another family. They tapped us again, and some other people were there too.
Now, this was the first time you were in a Jewish DP camp,
Yeah,
and this was 1945,
this was already 1946.
which means I have to
Yeah,
backtrack
go ahead.
and ask you, for a year you were traveling around?
We were in Czechoslovakia, we were in Austria. I don't know where we were. Then we walked, through the. No, I'm speaking to her. I speak Polish and then I mix in Hebrew and I mix
It's
in
okay.
all,
It's okay.
all kinds of languages
But
to the border.
but 1 year is a long time.
Yeah, we walked.
Do you think you might have stayed at another camp before that?
No. Now a lot of people still were in a few camps, but we went to Wetzlar.
Is Wetxlar?
No, WETZ. That's LAR.
Okay.
Underland. The. No? How do you say? The border, the river was called Lahn. LAHN.
Are you sure you didn't get there in 45?
No. No.
Okay.
Because over there I met my husband and we got married in 1947.
Okay, we're not, but
We're
I don't,
not that far.
we're not, we're gonna have to figure out what happened in 45, but you got to Wetzlar, and tell me what it looked like, what the housing was like. All barracks?
Oh, where there were houses, like my husband lived by German people in the city, but this was only barracks. There were a lot, of course, displaced persons in these barracks. So, let me take a look.
You know what? Don't look through papers now. Let me ask you questions.
Okay.
We'll do the papers afterwards. What I try to do is get a physical description and a sense of the camp. How long do you think you were in the camp?
Till 1947. We came 19.
Moment.
Telephone day? I didn't hear the telephone.
1947.
Just a minute. 1947, I was still married in camp.
So at
No,
least,
in this place, in DP, I was married already.
well, 46, 47 you were in the
Yeah,
camp. Were you
yeah.
in the camp in 48?
48. I came to America in 49, so I was in 48 there too.
Okay. So-
May 49, we came to Birmingham, Alabama. Oosh.
All right, we'll get to Wilmington.
Yes,
So for about 3 years you were in the camp.
something like that.
So everybody pretty much lived in barracks?
Yes.
Okay. And food, did they give out the food centrally, or were you cooking for yourself?
No, there was a little stove in the part of our room, and it went out the pipe went out through the window, and we cooked a little bit, but I don't think we got food from them. Maybe, don't remember. What did Sima say?
She wasn't at the same camp.
No.
Do you remember if there was who did the survivors run the camp?
Yes, mostly the survivors.
Do you remember if there was like a Jewish committee that organized itself?
Yeah, I think so.
Were there Jewish police that set themselves up to guard the camp? Security. I don't
Just,
mean with uniforms
I know, I know. I
necessarily.
guess it was. And we had one place where we used to get on Shabbat or Sunday dancing and singing. Yes.
Oh, so did you go to Shabbat services?
Yeah,
Did most of the camp go?
probably. Probably most. A lot of people.
A lot of were most of the people from this camp from one country, or was it a mixture?
No, it was a mixture from all kinds of countries.
Do you remember which? Polish, Czech, Hungarian.
Yeah, Polish, Czech, Hungarian, some from Russian even. Yeah.
Did most people get along?
Yeah, it did. Like here, you know how it is.
Okay. Um, were there? What town was this near?
Near Frankfurt, big town, Frankfurt am Main. In
And
Frankfurt.
did when people were socializing, did they socialize a lot in the camp, or did they go out to Frankfurt to see a movie?
No, no, no. In the camp, I think they had a movie in Wetzlar too, I think so. No, they didn't go to Frankfurt. It wasn't so close by Frankfurt. My husband went to, he went to school. He went to college, engineering, another. Gießen was the little town, I remember. And that's it. What can I tell you?
How did you meet your husband?
I didn't meet, there was this room where we went dancing and over there we were praying. So one day he was there too and he started talking to me. And little by little we started going out and I brought him back to my mother. He was blonde, reddish. He didn't look like a Jew. When he left, my mother says, "You couldn't pick a Jewish boy?" And my husband came from a very, very religious family. So I said, "He's Jewish." She said, "You couldn't pick a Jewish boy after what we went through? You have to have a shegitz guy." So that's how I met him. And we got married in August 26, 1947.
Was your wedding in the
In
camp?
the camp, yeah, in a room,
Who made the wedding?
Well, probably my mother tripped in. He didn't have any parents. Their parents and two brothers were killed. It wasn't such a big wedding, Some people brought a present, a cake, some brought a pillowcase or a tablecloth, and that's it.
Did people did people attend your wedding you didn't invite, like other people from the camp?
No. And then I moved in. My husband had a room in the city by German people, so I moved in with him there, one room. And we had a toilet, the German people there. German Goyim, not German Jewish.
Right.
And we lived there, and from there my husband traveled to college. It was a higher school, not only college. And I stayed home probably.
Did you travel back to the DP camp to visit your family?
Yes, sure. I didn't have any family. Just my mother.
Your mother.
My brother.
Did you have friends in the DP
Oh,
camp?
yes.
Who were some of
Did
them?
I meet some in DP camp? No, she was with me in concentration camp.
Who were friends in the DP camp?
Well, Urka, Soma, she comes from my town. And her husband is also from my town. And I told you, Lusha Tepper and Rivcha Tepper and her husband, there were quite a few people. Yeah. To this day, they're still my friends. Some that live, mostly are gone. because we're not as young as we used to be.
Was there any kind of Zionist
Yes,
pressure? Listen to
not pressure.
Zionist pressure put on survivors in your camp to go to Israel.
I think so, because there were all kinds of Zionisten, Revsionisten, this and this, the lefties, righties, all kinds of groups.
Uh, did the survivors listen to them?
Sometimes they did, mostly they didn't. Most of them went to America. Even these that went to Israel, after a few years they came to America. We went straight to America because my husband had a great uncle and he took us out. Not the Hayas, not the owner, but he took us out to Birmingham. Birmingham, Alabama. Persecution there for the Schwarze was just horrible.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
When you were liberated, do you remember when you actually felt free?
Well, I was still afraid. Let's say a car went by and the horn was out. So I thought, they're coming, the Germans. I was still afraid for a long time.
When do you think you were less afraid?
My husband told me not to. He never talked about the concentration camp, and he was in the worst 11 concentration camps. He never talked, and he told me also. He told me I should calm down, so little by little. But now I'm crazy. Now I am crazy. When I go to the doctor and I tell him I'm crazy, he says, "You're not crazy." I am. I'm so nervous. My children call me every day after work, either from the office or when they go out. And we made up already. We made up already. Don't call me, let's say 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whenever you have time. But when that time comes, 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and they don't call, I go crazy and sugar. I call the office, I call the cell phone, completely nuts.
But this is not from the Nazis. This is just you.
It's me, because I lost so young my husband and I was alone with 2 children. It's me because he went to work and he never came back. A car, a truck, I guess, moved out and he didn't see it and he killed. That was a day, the first day after Pesach he went to work and he didn't come home. And I went shopping, after Pesach I went shopping and I came back and I saw here, I had neighbors, the Halpans, and I see Ulkas and Julius's cars there, but they were partners with the Halpans. So I figured they came to business. And then they came home to me and they said my husband's name was David. David was killed. So I say, I like to see him. So they said there's nothing to see. The truck completely smashed him. That's it. So my daughter, she went to college, to Stern College she went. But she visited, my daughter got married 6 weeks after my husband's death, because in the Jewish religious family you don't postpone a wedding. So she went first time to Birmingham to meet the boys, also from Birmingham, my son-in-law, to meet the in-laws. When she came back, she was so happy. She wasn't still in college, and she called me, and I told her the story. She came here, and my son went here as JC to yeshiva. He didn't know anything. He knew his sister's coming back. He came in laughing, he smiling. That's all. We went to here because we lived in Queens, so he went there to yeshiva. And here he came in, I think he was 7 or 8th grade.
Well, it's
And
a horrible story.
And here, this picture, and the pair, my son, my daughter-in-law, and this is my granddaughter and my grandson, her husband. So, what do you want to say? I don't remember.
So can I take you back to the...
Yeah, you can take me back whatever you want. If I can answer, I'll answer. If not, I'll say I don't remember, I
Okay.
don't know.
Let's go back to
The
the
DP
DP
camp?
camp.
Yes.
What, what do you remember there being black market?
Yes.
Can you tell me what you remember about it?
I remember that people used to go and sell, I don't know, eggs and they went to the city, you know, some clothes. Yeah, the black market was very big there because people have nothing to live from.
So they would
But
take...
I don't know where they took all that stuff.
Oh. Was there anything done inside the camp, or they took it to
No.
Frankfurt?
They took it. No, they took it all around the little towns. Frankfurt was too far.
So they would just do it locally.
Yes,
Were people worried about getting caught?
yes, of course.
But they still did it anyway.
They did it because they had to.
From packages from America?
Yes, we got packages from my husband's great uncle. He lived in Birmingham, very rich. He has a wholesale store. We got packages, and then some soldiers that liberated my husband, Mahutka, I remember the place. He used to give him dollars to give it to my husband. And then he used to send chocolate and coffee. So my husband wrote him a letter, "Dear uncle, send me dollars, not chocolate." We used to sell the chocolate. He didn't need a package of chocolate and coffee. But he says, "You know what, send me dollars." So this Mahutka always came and brought dollars.
So the dollars were very good.
Yes.
And you could buy food.
Everything.
But it's mostly just things you needed.
Yeah, of course. No things that we...
It wasn't like you were trying to get rich, it was to
No.
get by.
Just to eat. And then when my husband lived by German people, he had to pay rent. He had to pay rent and buy food. And we used to get rations, rations there. And I was young. I got a child's ration, and I was pregnant later, so I got 2 rations.
What were the rations like?
Like bread, milk, I don't know, sometimes kosher meat, border, I don't know, all these little things.
Okay. What, was there one leader or one person
Yes,
that
yes.
stood out?
Yeah, there were a few, but I don't remember their names. There were.
I was going to ask you, was it more like a camp run by everybody, or was any...
No, it was like office, and it was run through the office, not everybody, no.
No, what I'm saying is, was there a definite leadership, or did everybody help out?
Well, people helped out, but there was a leadership here, of course.
But you don't remember anybody's
I
name?
don't remember the names.
Was there a doctor in the camp?
It was a doctor, I think. Or maybe not, no. Because when I was pregnant, I had to go to Frankfurt.
Okay. Let's see. You're doing great.
I'm crazy. But
Yes.
Sima they went from one camp to the other. We were lucky, we were just in
No.
Wetzlar.
Do you remember if there were did Ort come into the camp? Was there
so,
Ort
yes.
training?
Yes,
What,
yes.
Were they training women and men?
I don't know about men, but I know women because I also went to Ort, and they taught us like to sew and things like that.
Did you get one of their little not scholarships, but graduation? You graduated?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you learned how to sew.
Yes,
Did you ever use that later?
I used it a little bit. Yes.
Okay. Were there people doing jobs at the camp that you remember? Like handing out jobs and jobs within the camp?
They probably had some jobs in the camps. A few people had jobs in the office. I worked in the office. Otherwise,
Were there American soldiers around the camp?
very, very little. No, not too many.
How about, did you have actors putting on shows, a little orchestra?
They used to come from time to time, I told you, to that room.
Right.
Not too many. But they used to come and we used to go see the show or dancing. There was a lot of dancing.
A lot of couples get together?
Yes, dancing.
A lot of women get pregnant?
When they got married,
But were there a lot of babies born?
there were babies born, yes.
Was it was it a celebration for the camp when people got married?
No,
Was
I
it a
don't think so.
celebration when people had babies?
I don't think so. I don't remember. My children were born in America.
Okay. Where were you when Israel became a state?
1948, I was already. No, I was still in Germany because I came 1949. I came to America.
So can you
May
remember?
1949. Oh, there was a celebration, dancing and singing, of course.
Do you actually, can you think for a minute and can you recall, did you actually hear the countdown?
Did they be here? Yeah, of course. They were loud.
So do you remember do you recall if you, how you felt?
I felt very, very good.
What does it mean to you when Israel became a state?
That means that we have a home. And my husband always said, we are going to go to Israel, not to America. So I said, no, I'm afraid of the Arabs. I'm not going. And if he had to get killed right away after we came to America, so can you see? It's written up. I don't know. I don't believe it. That it says, and Rosh Hashanah, God writes everything down, and on Yom Kippur He gives the stamp. I don't believe in that, but I cannot say anything to my children because they are religious. Their mother are religious. My daughter weren't gonna even wear pants, you know. Their mother here. This is my granddaughter, my daughter, my grandchildren. But I cannot. They think that I'm a religious. I don't work on Shabbos. I don't travel on Shabbos. I don't cook. I don't do anything. I go crazy.
All right. That's your word. Did you
Yeah.
ever try to go to Palestine?
We were there. I was there 4 times.
No, Palestine
No,
before.
no, Palestine.
No.
No. I was young.
Okay. So, but after Israel became a state, how do you feel about Israel?
I felt very good, but not to live there.
Okay. So
we
in,
went 4 times to Israel. 1983 was the last time that I was there.
what did it feel like to go to services in the DP camp?
Services, you know, davening. That's all. Because I first went to the Polish school. You know, Polish school. I was in Poland. I'm a Greciana.
Okay.
The very bad people, they say, Greciana. No, they're not. Every child knew how to read Hebrew. So I went to Polish school and then Hebrew school. It wasn't like an hour or Sundays. It was every day. Ulka also went to that school. The school, by the way, was near Ulka's house. They were very rich, Ulka and Boris. And then my mother says, they didn't teach us just Hebrew. You probably won't be able to read Jewish. So I went to Beis Yaakov to learn to read how Jewish.
Now this is before the war.
No, after the war.
This is when?
This was in 1947, 48, of course, after the war. No, before I went, my neighbor's kids went to school, and I said to mother, I was 5 years old, I want to go to school too. Go, stupid kid. So before the war,
Yes.
of course.
Because my question is, how did you feel about having services after the war? Was it emotional at all?
It was a little emotional, but I said, why did God did this to us? Why did they did? What did they do? The little children, what did they do wrong that the Nazis took them and threw them in the grave? Some, they just threw them. They were still alive. There are a few people that came out from the graves. In our town, there's a great big 3,000 people in one day. It was May, I think, 24th, something like that. They killed in our cemetery 3,000 people. But they shot them, and they didn't put one person and shot through 5 people, so because they didn't want to spend so much bullets. And a few people came out alive from that. It's still there. Urka, Mrs. Summer was there in Poland. She was in the cemetery also there. Well, there are cows and other things are going around there. But I think we have a monument in Israel for the Holocaust, and we have in our cemetery too. But they took out the matzevas. You know what a matzeva is?
Say for the camera what it is.
It's the gravestone, and they made sidewalks from it by us in town. You could go and read the sidewalks from the cemetery. Going, and that's it. I still dream the worst dream that I had a nightmare. That of course I didn't have any children then. That I go and I have no place where the children should hide. No place. That's it. We had a big throne. That's a hiding place in our house underneath. And when the Germans came in, they were knocking at the walls, but luckily they didn't knock on that wall, they were down. So we're still alive there. Oh, that was on a Thursday. Oh, your boy.
Now I'm going to take you.
Yes.
At what point did you decide, how did you decide to come to America?
I was afraid to go to Israel, but Arabs and Arabs and Arabs. And then my husband has this great uncle, very rich, Feinstein. So he sent out papers. We didn't go through the UNRWA or through the other organizations. And some people that came through the UNRWA, they took them out. They got there, they gave him carriages, they gave him other things. But I couldn't go because it wasn't nice. The uncle is so rich, and I'll go and ask for something. And that's it. But I remember that the uncle told him he shouldn't get married in Germany. And my husband got married with me in Germany.
So how did you get to America?
Well, how we get to America, first of all, we had to go to the CIA. The CIA had to interview and ask us all kinds of questions, and then they took blood, and I don't know, I was underweight, so they didn't let me for a year. I had to stay. I cried so much for a year, and then another thing, when I went already a year later or so I was pregnant already, and the blood showed, but they saw that I was pregnant, so they let us go. And we went by boat. I think it took us about two weeks. My husband spoke English, so he was, a Dalmatian, interpreter. Everything is mixing up in my head. He was an interpreter, so it wasn't bad. The women were separate, and one not rooms. And the boat others, they were like bunk beds, another person, and I slept down because I was pregnant, and my husband was downstairs, and he brought me apples and other things, and little by little we came to America. Came to America. My mother and my brother was here already 3 months in New York City, in the Bronx they lived. So we were there a few days, and then the uncle sent us, you know,